Disclaimer, this video might get kind of angry. Hey, what's up, sock drawer? It is Ross here. So with Season 6 coming to an end in the next month or so, and Worlds moving swiftly towards its grand final, where inevitably two Asian teams will be battling out for supremacy, whilst NA and EU sit on the sidelines arguing who the best region is. That inevitably triggers a lot of change towards the next season and what they're going to change and what kind of things they're going to add to make the next season all that much more interesting for players. So you see, in the past, Riot has had a little bit of a trend towards their game design when it comes to the jungle in particular. So every season, Riot gets their shovels out and they decide to go completely balls deep on the jungle and change it in a bunch of ways, tearing it apart to try and make it more streamlined and more like skill based. I don't really know what the reasoning for it is exactly, and I have to say, I honestly feel really bad for you jungle guys. You guys actually main jungle. If you can probably tell, I'm not a jungle main. I'm really not all that good at the jungle. I mean, I'm barely clearing his Olaf here, for fuck's sake. But still, you guys have to practice year after year to get your jungle path down with certain characters, only to have at the end of the season, Riot completely change absolutely everything about everything you've known what to do and make you relearn everything again and again. It's honestly no surprise that like junglers get so much blame for everything in the game, because honestly, if you're like me, you probably have no idea what the fuck is going on 99% of the time. You log into League after like a couple of weeks of being inactive after Worlds, and you've got a new set of masteries you don't understand in an entirely new jungle. It's a clusterfuck. You head into game, and it's not a jungle anymore, but it's like a labyrinth of random fucking monsters you have never ever seen before, and an array of bullshit you're just not prepared for. You're getting executed left and right. It's the worst experience of your life, and I'm fairly certain that, I mean, that's my reaction since I don't main jungle, but you know, whatever. It's what happens to me whenever I play jungle at the beginning of the season. And it's things like this that can make you actually appreciate maining a real lane. I mean, it's not as if you're gonna get into like Season 7 and you main top lane and suddenly you go to top to farm and just fucking Baron Nashor is just sitting there and you check the patch notes and Riot gives you some bullshit like, yes, we thought the game would be more dynamic if the top laners had a constant objective to fight over. It encourages teamwork. Well, Riot have had the bulldozers run through Summoner's Rift jungle once again. But in spectacular fucking fashion, Riot have somehow managed to hold their horses on completely redesigning everything and like removing razor beaks and replacing them with some kind of hobgoblin creatures, but they've still done a lot of really questionable shit for the next season. Instead, they've created what is essentially another fucking minigame to keep track of in the jungle, like an RNG based minigame. And whilst I know that they're gonna cause a massive clusterfuck, I'm trying to keep an open mind about one particular aspect of the jungle changes, because some of it does look like it could be funny to use. Oh, and they removed Smite Buffs. Yeah, really. And I'm really interested in your opinion on this one, guys. So I want to have a civil conversation going on in the comment section below on what you think about the new mechanics and the removal of Smite Buffs. Yeah, I keep saying buff smites. Down below. All this after you watch the video though and get my opinion on it and learn everything that's happening. By the way, when I say be civil about it, I am of course being sarcastic. I'm actually quite angry about certain changes to this. So yes, I am not joking when I say that they are completely removing buff smites. Oh, okay, let's go in and let's try. Oh yeah, okay. Ooh. Hit me. Oh no. I am being completely serious when I say that they are removing Smite Buffs completely. And when I say Smite Buffs, if you're not entirely certain what I'm talking about, I'm not talking about like the red buff or the blue buff that you get from killing red or blue. I'm talking about, for instance, if we go to blue buff, you smite it, you get some mana. You smite red, you get some health. You smite your Gromp, you get the Toxic ability, the DOT, or you get Razor Beaks, you get some True Sight. All this stuff, you know what this is? They're really useful buffs and they're like pretty essential to the game, and there's a lot of strategy in using them. Now, the justification behind the removal of this is some of the most short-sighted shit I've ever seen, alright? The justification behind the removal of these buffs is that that low elo people and people across all elos are just not using it correctly. And I can really honestly disagree with that entirely. Straight off the bat, it's a very interesting thing for me to see, because the dev that this is coming from is a mid-silver player. So I'm not sure if it's just a case of they don't really know how to use the buffs, because they kind of are speaking for everyone. They say that the only people that can really use these buffs are top tier players, like high elo people. But honestly, everything about the way they're describing this is just really, honest to God, so confusing. They are removing Smite Buffs and replacing it with an RNG mechanic in the jungle because they think that that adds more strategy to the game. There is a lot of strategy in just the spell Smite, never mind the fact that you get buffs from it, okay? And I don't think it's just something that high level players, it's exclusive to them. It's not exclusive to them in any capacity. You are constantly faced with decisions in the jungle when you play jungle, when you have Smite. Do you want to Smite red and get health? Or do you want to try and go for a steal onto dragon? They're doing dragon, but you have no mana. Do you want to try and smite blue and go and get it with full mana? Or do you want to like do this or that? Like, there is a lot of options. Do you want to get razor beaks, smite razor beaks, and then go and clear some wards bot lane to maybe try and set up another gank? Do you want to save that smite in case they try and do a buff? Or do you want to use it to smite a champion so you can maybe get a kill? There is shitloads of stuff you can do with smite, right? And removing options for smite doesn't add more strategy, it completely disincentivizes it. And what they're replacing this with is a thing called plants, which are randomly generated plants that spawn in the jungle that add an element of RNG. That's not strategy, that's luck. It's random. It doesn't change, it doesn't make things more like strategic. It's the complete opposite. You cannot strategize around a random element. So these plants, I'll be showing some footage of them on the screen as we talk about the plants as we go along. There's like 3 plants that have been released, and they are semi-random. They occur, they're kind of like bard chimes, I guess, except they only appear in the jungle. They can't appear in lanes and stuff. It's kind of like a cross between Xyrus seeds and bard's chimes, and it's supposed to make the game more dynamic. A seed will spawn, and 30 seconds later, a plant will blossom. Each one has a different effect and does different things depending on what that plant is. So what kind of plants do we have in store then? Well, the first one that's showcased is easily the most clusterfucky one on the menu, and it's called the Blast Cone. It is essentially like a mega-powered Ziggs bomb that, when triggered, explodes and knocks you a pretty huge distance in the opposite direction, depending on where you are standing on it. Now, this is showcased in the video on screen as being able to stop chasers and stuff like that. Of course, in theory, I'm sure that thing has potential, but in execution, I'm sure it's a lot more difficult to actually use properly. Also, considering most junglers are melee, and I thought initially it would be like a really cool thing to use in team fights, but I don't think anybody's ever gonna get like caught with it in team fights, really, because like one of the ranged characters is literally just gonna like hit it and activate it before anybody really gets close to it. It is literally never gonna get triggered on top of a team, ever. And if the enemy has no flashes, no dashes, anything like that, then yeah, maybe it could be a useful plant for escaping or for like an early invade or something, but beyond that, I feel like its small radius is just gonna make it pretty easy to avoid getting caught up in too much. However, Riot did mention that this can spawn next to Dragon and Baron Pit, which opens up the option for 5-man huge engages over walls with the blast cone. You can all line up, hit the blast cone, and fly over the wall. And imagine how fucking hilarious that would be if you send your entire team on top of Baron to like contest it. Probably wouldn't work. You'd probably get fucked up from the extra damage from Baron, but it'd be funny for like the first 2 or 3 seconds. Next up is the honey fruit. This is a fruit that's pretty simple. It spawns exclusively at the edge of the jungle, so it's going to be exclusively around the river areas around here. And when you hit it and activate it, it drops a couple of fruit, like 4 or 5 fruit. Those fruit will heal you on pickup, so all you have to do is run over them and you get a little bit of HP. Not sure how that's going to work with scaling and stuff, whether it like is incredibly overpowered or it's going to be like really honestly not that good. I need to get the hell out of there. There's a lot of people. Woo! I'm out. I could really fuck with the dynamic of river chases. I'm not sure how well it's going to scale though. I mean, if you're chasing a Kha'Zix who's like low HP and suddenly he grabs like one of these fruit and he gets half HP and he suddenly realizes that the person that's chasing him suddenly isn't as scary as he thinks it was, and he decides to bite down on that booty, you might be in trouble. Finally, Lastly, we have the reveal of the plant called the Scryer's Bloom, which it kind of works in an interesting way. It's been compared to a magical dandelion, in that when you blow a dandelion, the little petals go in the direction you blow. This one, when you hit it, it will grant you vision in a cone, depending on what direction you hit it from. So in the video on the screen, the person, it is blown next to Dragon Pit, and the person hits it, and it shows vision on dragon. You gain a bit of you can use that to gain vision on dragon, red buff, other buffs, anything you want really. Now extra vision in this game, when everything is pretty limited as it is, because like we can't actually fucking buy wards properly, that's a good thing. I'm okay with that one. But honestly, we need to see how much like these plants spawn to see how much of an impact they make on gameplay. I'm not a big fan of RNG concepts in games like this. Crit, okay, I can deal with it, but honest to God, if they actually have a big impact on the game and RNG becomes like quite an essential part of the game, like you could have like a champion that needs to invade early, a really aggressive jungler, but fucking blast cones spawn all around the enemy jungle all the time, so you cannot get close to your enemy jungler to actually like kill him because he can just blast cone you back to where you fucking came from. Like it's really fucking with me, and I gotta say, I'm happy that Riot are somewhat confident in the jungle right now. They haven't made too many changes, but I honestly think the Smite Buff thing is like is not a good change to the jungle. And like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of getting like ranty about it, but it is something that's kind of annoyed me. I can only imagine how relatively content a lot of junglers are with the fact that, okay, we don't have to deal with like an entirely new fucking like set of buffs, but changing it up like and taking away the Smite Buff doesn't seem like a good idea to me. But I'm open to discussion whether or not you guys think this is a good idea or a bad idea. Personally, I'm fairly okay with plants, but I disagree with the sentiment that taking away an actual strategic part of the game and replacing it with RNG is undoubtedly a really, really horrible thing to do. I don't think the fact that saying a lot of the players or every player from low elo to high elo can't use the buffs at all is not a correct statement to make, okay? People use the buffs, right? People take Gromp, they use it to do extra damage. People take the Razor Beaks and they use it to clear wards. People take red because they're low health. People take blue because they need mana. They smite these things for these particular things. If you're low HP and you use red buff to smite it for health, that is the exact correct usage of that smite buff. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I would really love to get some dialogue on this from Riot. Change my mind about this. If you think this is a good change and you think Smite Buff remove is a good thing, let me know why. If you agree with me and think it's a bad thing, or if you don't like plants, or if you're like me and you're on the fence about plants. Now this is really early days. We have not heard a lot about this just yet. Like, this was announced this morning. I woke up to this announcement, so it's very early days. But the earlier that we can like get more information on this, the earlier that we can ask questions, the sooner we can save our fucking game, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's been a lot of weird changes in the game, but the problem is, it always seems to be that we start making complaints about it a little bit too late. We don't actually complain about these things until they're already implemented, and it's too late to take them out, right? This is not been implemented yet, and it can still be subject to change. So we have the opportunity to open a dialogue with Riot if possible and get ourselves some more info. So if you comment down below, show your support, and we'll see if we can get some answers on this. That'll be fantastic, guys. So we can positively help shape the community, shape the game that we play and the game that we love, potentially. So let's try and do it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did watch this whole video, or if you're excited or dislike the new changes, please drop a like on this video. If you're new to my channel and you want to join the sock drawer, you can feel free to do so by clicking that big fat subscribe button, and I would greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Take it easy.